Hi everybody, so today I've got the Goss Holiday collection, the 4 base brushes, and these do look pretty beautiful. So here they are inside the box, aren't they beautiful? So I'm going to try all of these 4 brushes today. I have nothing on whatsoever, so I'm going to apply my makeup using all of these so we can see how they work, and can I pretty much do a full base minus concealer, because there isn't really a concealer brush. Can I do everything with these brushes? So let's see how they get on. I can't wait to try them because I really like the look of these. As soon as I saw them, these are actually my first Goss brushes, so I'm really excited to try these. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Hannah. I'm 47, not a professional, just somebody who loves makeup and beauty. And here on my channel, I review the latest products and I show you my favourite looks and give you any beauty news you might be interested in. If you think you'd enjoy this, please do subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. And if you're already subscribed, welcome back. I appreciate you all so very much. Let's get straight into this video. So as soon as I saw these brushes, I knew I had to try them because I do love a really sort of thick buffing brush. And there's 2 here which I think can be used to do most of my base products, so foundation and bronzer mostly, but possibly using this one as well for liquid blush, maybe even contour. So today I'm going to try both of these for those, and then this one probably more for powder blush and this one for highlight. So I'll see how I get on with these, but firstly let's look at the price of these. These are $77.50 on Beautylish, which I've got a link for you below. And on the Goss UK side, they are £70, but I actually got these 30% off because there's a discount code HOLIDAY24. And just to be very clear, this isn't an affiliate link or a code that was given to me. This was a code that if you ask for early access via the Goss site, you got the code to get 30% off. So I got that code by signing up and I got mine for 30% off. So absolute bargain really. So if you're looking to get these and you like them, definitely before that code runs out. I've just checked it as I'm making this morning and that code is still working on the Goss site. So that's the Goss UK site. I don't know if it'll be available outside the UK, unfortunately. I just don't know. But you can get this on the Beautylish, but without that discount, unfortunately. Anyway, let's look straight at these brushes. I always say blush instead of brushes. Now, one of the questions when I posted pictures of these was, is it going to be too thick, too heavy, too sort of cumbersome to handle? So firstly, they're extremely lightweight, much more lightweight than I would have expected. They're almost like a feather in my hand, even though this has got this sort of metal casing. So it's a very thin metal casing, not heavy at all. And I do actually have arthritis in my hands, so I completely understand when people say they're going to be awkward and difficult. So I will give you a very honest review on how I find these to use and whether they are just too difficult. But this is the thickest of them all. And these are described as ultra soft synthetic brushes, and it certainly feels very soft. It says that these will effortlessly apply powders and creams and everything in between. Perfect for buffing, blending and adding flawless touch to foundation, contour and highlight. So this one is the all-round brush. This one buffs in liquid creams and powders, mineral foundations for a poreless finish, creating a smooth canvas. So let's see. So I've got my base on, which is just skincare. That's all I use as my base. So my last product on my face was a moisturizer. So today I'm going to use the Prada foundation. I actually dug this one out after I did my top 5 foundations because I forgot how good this was and thought, should I have included this in my top 5 foundations? And having tested it a lot since then, I think, well, maybe it did deserve a spot actually, because I've loved it again. So I've got shade LN5 in the Prada foundation. So I'm putting some of this onto the back of my hand and I'm going to now tap this brush, which is how I usually apply all foundation. I don't try to put it directly on the face anymore. So I'm sort of buffing it almost into my hand a bit so I don't have too much product. And then I'm going to start going in with this. Now what I would say straight away is the brush seems to have absorbed an awful lot of the foundation, but let's see if it absorbs it and still distributes it, or do I need to keep putting more on the back of my hand, because that's a bit of an issue. Well, the foundation has gone on seamlessly, but I do feel the brush has absorbed a lot of it. So maybe I shouldn't use my usual method with this brush of putting it on the back of my hand, but that is how I like to do it. So anyway, just because I think it didn't work so well, I'll put a few dots. So I've got one pump on the back of my hand and I'm just taking a little bit in dots across my face. And now I'm going to go in with the brush. Yeah, I think that worked better, you know. Buffing it into the back of my hand, it just absorbed it. But this brush is definitely doing the job for me, isn't it? Barely doing anything here, you know. That is a pretty effortless blend. That is so quick. I am very impressed so far. And the handle, I'm not finding it difficult. Now getting close around the eyebrows is a bit of an issue. But to be fair, it is with most foundation brushes. I do sometimes go in with a smaller one to be super precise in these areas. That really is just buffing it straight in. That's got to be one of the quickest applications of a foundation I've ever done. Wow. Well, this seems to work. Let's build up a little bit where I want a bit more coverage and see if that... Yeah, I'm just going to tap gently because I don't want it to move around the face so much. I want it to stay in that area, but wow, that worked very nicely. Well, this is looking like a really, really good brush, apart from me having to change the fact that I put a bit of foundation on my face instead of my hand. That's probably because this is so effective at buffing out that when I did that, it basically buffed it into my hand. It didn't just absorb it, it buffed it into my hand, so. I'm not finding it too chunky and I'm not finding it difficult at all. I'm finding it very easy to use. Excellent. I can't say a single thing wrong about that. I really can't. I think that's given me quite a flawless application. Obviously the Prada foundation is a lovely, lovely finish, but I think that's really spot on, you know. I'm going to look at the next brush now. So this is the buffing brush, designed to precisely buff in bronzes and blushes for a seamless blend. Again, very soft. It's not quite as thick if you look at the difference between the two here. So it's not quite as chunky. They do look really chunky online, but I think when you see them, the foundation one is, but this one is not as chunky. What I would say is these would take up a lot of space in your makeup holders though, because if you look at, say, the bronzer brush, the contour brush I use from BK Beauty 109, there's a massive difference, isn't there? So they're not going to be quite as neat in your brush holders. But anyway, let's see how it performs. So next I go in with contour, so I'm going to be using my favourite contour at the moment, which is the Dior stick, and I've got this in the lightest shade if you're curious. So I'm going to put this into all my contour areas. I'm not really expecting it to work on the nose with it being as wide as it is, and I do tend to use a different brush on the nose anyway. Let's see how I get on with this. So I'm just going to lightly tap this in because it's not something I want to buff all over the face. That's buffing in very nicely and easily. I mean, I am giving it some good products, I suppose. I'm not challenging it with tricky products, but that is going in so quickly. That's what I would say straight away about both of these, you know, is I think they're actually doing the work for me more so than brushes I've used before, and much more quickly. Look how quick that is. My whole forehead buffed in pretty much. I mean, I know the Dior one is very quick, but so I'm patting rather than buffing with this because I don't want it moving all over the face. But that is really, really good. I can see me using these definitely regularly, you know, especially for quick looks, because that is really fast. It's giving me a precise application as well. What do you think of that? Now I will go down the sides of the nose. It is a bit too chunky for that, like I said, and I do tend to use a much more fine brush for that. Sometimes on a quick day when I just want to get my look done quickly, I do go in with the brush I'm using everywhere else. So just seeing if it's possible to do that. So obviously that has worked nicely, not terribly precise, but it has worked. So my next step now is concealer. I can't use this under the eyes, so I'll just do my concealer under the eyes and be back to show you where I use the concealer everywhere else. And I think I will continue to use this brush for the concealer then. So I've done my eyes and now I'm going to put a bit of concealer. I'm using the Westman Atelier in the lightest shade, by the way. So I'm going to put concealer in all the areas that I always place it. And then I'm going to go back in with this smaller buffer brush. Yep, it's working nicely for that, and it's not moving anything from underneath. It's definitely soft enough for this, you know, it feels very soft, especially going into areas like around the nose, which for me can be one of the more sensitive areas. And also when I tap, the bristles don't feel remotely sharp, they feel soft, because a lot of brushes, again, when you tap them in, they can feel quite uncomfortable. This one, so you can really buff around the whole face with this. Obviously, for my makeup application, I do like to do this contour and concealer, so I don't just buff a shade all over the face apart from the foundation. But if you did want to just do an all over the face, or buff in generally with this, it would be so soft. Let's see if I can take this down the nose. So it's not it's not very precise for this, but anyway. Again, it's not a brush I would use for this. I use smaller brushes for that always. Anyway, the forehead, absolutely fine, but it has still buffed it out on the nose so quickly. I am very impressed. There's something quite special about this, you know, because of the way it's buffing in. I do feel my whole makeup application is so much quicker with these. I'm definitely going to use these over the week and see if it makes me miss my other brushes, but at the moment I love the way that this has been so quick but also seamless. That's really, really nice. So soft and seamless and fast application. I can't complain at all about that, I really can't. So I'm going to go in with some cream bronzer now, using one of my absolute favourites from Charlotte Tilbury, the Beautiful Skin, and this is in the lightest shade. This is shade Fair, and I'm going to use this same buffer brush. Now when I use a bronzer, I always use the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer brush, which is even bigger. So we are getting a smaller one. I suppose I could use the biggest one for this. Shall I do that? Maybe, but I've still got foundation on it. Let me get the foundation out of this brush. I think it's all gone actually. Let's just do it. So I won't use that smaller one, I'll use the bigger one. And go into the bronzer, sort of swirl it round a bit, and then see how much it's picked up. Not too much, which is good, because I don't want too much. Just want a bit really, because the contour's already given me quite a good bronze. I just like to finish with this. Oh yeah, that is applying it perfectly actually. If I look at my favourite brush again from Charlotte Tilbury, not that different in size, so I can see why I like this as a bronzing brush. If you're someone who likes to apply creams, this duo is going to be very, very, very good for you. Really like them both. I'm just getting the excess bronzer there off the smaller of the two buffing brushes, because now I'm going to go in for a cream blush, and I'm going to use this one here from Danessa Myrex. This is from her holiday collection kit, Spiced Latte, which I recently did a review for. Absolutely adore this. So I'm using the smaller one. That's exactly how it went on last time. It is really pigmented. So let's see how this brush deals with this pigment. Does it, oh wow. I was going to even say the words, does it spread it out quickly and evenly, and it's already done it. Look at that. These brushes are really good, you know. I'm very impressed. Look at that, it's done. Wow, that is so good. Oh, I love it. So let's do this side and show you again how this starts off. And it looks like it needs a lot of blending out, doesn't it? And then this brush just seems to do the job. I do think I put a little bit more on the brush though on this side than I did the other, but anyway. I'm not sure I quite wanted that much. I was being a little bit ambitious putting that much on. But I'll go in now with the bigger of the buffer brushes, because that's a good way to test it out, and go around the edges to sort of soften that out. That's done a perfect job. Really, really do like that very, very much. I think that that did a perfect job The smaller brush did the perfect job of blending it out efficiently and quickly and evenly, and then this bigger brush did a brilliant job of going around the edges and softening that out. So really pleased with that. This is for me the base blush. I don't want more colour than this because I will be going in with powders. And saying of powders, I'm wondering whether to try the smallest of the 3 brushes here to actually set my eyes, because I'm thinking it could be a good shape for it. So this one is the smallest brush. So this is a small tapered brush, and it says that this will accentuate smaller areas with precise application, making it ideal for highlighter, which I will use it for at the end. Extremely lightweight, this one, and again we're getting a much smaller handle on this one. Again, if I compare it to that first one, it is much smaller. So I've been using the Makeup by Mario setting powder a lot, so I'll use this today. I'll put some of this into my cap. I do have the lightest shade of the setting powder if you're interested, number 1 Fair Pink. So I'm going to take this smaller brush from the set now, swirl it around into the powder, and then go around into my hand because I don't want too much powder on the brush, and then just see if it works to set my eyes. I do think it's getting into that area pretty well. Feels a little bit chunky compared to the one I like to use, which is this one here from BK Beauty. If you look at the size difference there, that's probably why I'm finding it a little bit chunky, but it is doing the job. So if we're looking at brushes that can do lots of jobs and you don't need to have lots of brushes out on your table, this one certainly does it, and it's incredibly soft. This one's so much less dense than the first 2. It's much more soft. I mean, they're all very soft, but this one's even softer because they're just not packed in as tightly, so they just sort of, the bristles are moving more easily. So it works nicely on here. It's like a feather actually on my eyes. So soft. For the eyelid itself, it's perfect. It's just getting underneath where it's not quite small enough for that, but it does the job though. I might as well try the other one to set the rest of my face. So this is the 3rd brush, so you see the difference between that smaller one in handle size and then in brush size. So I believe they're pretty much the same, these two, just different in size. So this does actually feel a bit less soft. No, not soft. This feels more dense, slightly more dense. If you can see the way that this, whereas this one is just more fluffy and less firm. So this one is the medium tapered brush, which blends any formula with ease, creating effortlessly diffused edges, it says. So I'm going to go into the lid of my setting powder and use this now to set the rest of my face. I think it seems to be doing a pretty good job of that. I would rather use a puff these days or a very big brush for this, just to make it a bit quicker. I think using a brush like this takes a little bit longer. I'm not entirely sure that this is its intended use, but I want to, like I said, get multiple uses out of this set. I'm tapping this on because I've still got wet products underneath and I don't want to move them. Every time I go in, I'm swirling this around in my hand as well to make sure I don't have too much excess powder. So now I've got that first base down, I can afford to sort of swirl around a bit, and it's working very easily. Just not as quick as using a puff in my opinion, but not that far off. So it definitely does the job, and it does it very well actually. Now for powder bronzer, so I'm using one of my Holy Grail bronzers, the Lancome. This is in the shade Light 02. This is called the CE Skin Transforming Bronzer. I'm going to use the same brush I use for the setting powder with the bronzer to see how I get on with this. That's how much product was picked up from the first sort of swirl. So let's see how it applies the bronzer. These days I do like to use quite a chunky brush and pat in bronzer rather than going like this and swiping. So I'm going to try and use it in that way. It's done a very nice job so far there. And then bring it across the forehead. Yeah, very quick and easy application. I think the fact that this is a bit more dense than the smallest brush is actually making it quite a perfect one for bronzer. I'm able to pat it in. Really like that actually. That's done the job as quickly and as well as the thick brush I use, and I always use this really thick one from Rapha. So huge difference in sizes here if you look at the two, but it's doing the same job, so that's really good. And if you look at the handle on the Rapha, when we talk about being too big to handle, it's actually a little bit smaller. So I do use chunky brushes like this, so this certainly works well for me, and it's a bit smaller, so this could be a better one for me for travel as well, because they're quite neat the way they've got quite short handles, so they pack into makeup bags a bit more easily. Yeah, for a quick trip this could be a really good option. I really like that actually. That surprised me, because the two brushes I expected to love were the first two, the buffing brushes, because I love the look of them, and that's what made me get this collection. I wasn't expecting to think I'll probably use these very regularly, but that has applied the bronzer so nicely, very, very evenly. I really like the way that that's applied actually, so I think I will be using this one regularly as well actually, so that's really good. Very, very good. And again, no problems with the holding of the handles. As I said, I would let you know. Very comfortable and easy to use. It feels a little bit odd with them being short, I would say that, because I'm used to holding a longer handle, but I don't think it's affecting the application. It just feels a bit different because I'm not going for that super precise sort of effect that you need on your eyes, for instance, when you need that length. So I think it's fine, it's worked really well. So I'm going to put a powder blush on top using exactly the same brush, and I've just picked this new one up from Chanel. I believe this is a new shade. It was actually recommended to me, so if you're the person who recommended it, sorry I can't remember exactly who recommended it off the top of my head, but from swatching this I think it looks gorgeous, so I can't wait to try this one. So this one is called, it's 03 Brum d'Or. So this is a powder blush, and it looks like a really sort of perfect match for me with the spiced latte underneath. So I'm going to use this brush in the same sort of way as the bronzer to start. So I'm patting it in, and now I want to sweep it. So is this going to soften those edges for me, or is it going to look clumpy? At the moment I can still see the line there, so I'm not sure. As I go around this edge, it does seem to be smoothing out nicely now actually. So there we go, that line has gone. I would say this isn't quite as quick and effective as the blush brush I love to use from Rapha, but it's still working nicely. It is, it's definitely doing that. I just think it's a little bit too dense for applying a powder blush. I think you need a slightly softer brush, but it does work. So for me this would definitely be more of a bronzer brush, less of a blush brush, but it has worked. So again, for travel, if you wanted to just have a brush that does both and not have to pack a lot, it's certainly doing that for me quite nicely. And isn't this shade beautiful? So I'm going to pack on a bit more blush, and I'm doing this on purpose so that I feel I need a finishing powder, which is something I do very often anyway. But when I think that there's a little bit too much blush and I need to really, really soften it, that's when I have to use a finishing powder. So even though I use it most days, sometimes I have to use it. So that's why I'm over applying, so I know that I feel I've got a bit too much for me. I'm going for quite a sort of soft look today, so that's a little bit too much, and I feel it definitely needs a finishing powder. So I'm going to try the same brush now as for my finishing powder. So I use the YSL finishing powder pretty much every day of the year lately. I love it. So this is the YSL in the shade 01. This is the All Hours Hyper Finish. So I just sweep around and then go around the edges of this blush and see if this brush is doing that job. And I had a feeling it would, you know, because it did such a good job with bronzer. So you see how that's just softened those edges. If you compare to that side, you can just see it looks all more sort of fused in when you don't have such obvious lines. That has done a perfect job of doing exactly that. This is a really good brush. I love that, you know, very, very happy with that. So the last thing now is highlighter. So I'm going to go in with one of my absolute favourites at the moment, which is the one from Chanel, their holiday highlighter, the Diamond Dust. So now this will be the first time I'm trying this for makeup. I've only tried this one for the under eye setting powder. And it does say it's particularly good for highlight, and it is the fluffiest of the four. Oh yeah, that's definitely working for highlight. I often use a fan brush for highlight, but I do like to use a brush like this as well. I've got a Chica Hodo brush, very, very similar shape to this, that's specifically for highlight, and I do really love to use that one, and I think this one's working in a very similar way. It does feel a little bit odd having such a short handle, because with highlight I do like to sort of be a bit further away for more of a precise application, but at the same time I think it's doing the job nicely. See if I can use it to take it down the nose. Yeah, it's working absolutely fine. And then the Cupid's bow. That has done a really good job. I'm very impressed with these so far. Well, I say so far, that is the end of my review, because I've used them for everything I possibly can, and pretty much they've done exactly what I needed them to. I'll tell you what, I'll go off camera, do the rest of my face, and come back to do a final chat about what I really think about all four of these. So I've gone on and done the rest of my makeup. One issue I had with my makeup was some fallout with the glitter. So another one of these brushes came in handy for that, and that was this one, the third brush in the set. So this one is the Tapered Brush, the one that I used for my bronzer. So it was actually quite good, even though I did get an awful lot of glitter on me. It was quite good at picking up as much as it possibly could of the excess. So another use for this brush. So probably 3 out of 4 of these are absolute winners, and ones I think that will be used regularly for me. And the first one is the foundation. I'm going to call it my foundation brush anyway, the thickest. This is the one I would definitely use primarily for foundation, but it also worked well for that cream bronzer. I couldn't believe how quickly my foundation was absorbed and in and smooth and perfect after using this brush. It was so quick and easy. I don't mind the thickness of the handle. I found it very simple. One of the quickest foundation applications I've had in a long time, so I'm definitely going to be using this regularly. In fact, I will test this out, so my end of month review will give you some indication. We're coming so close to the end of November now, so I don't know whether I should do that in my end of December review, because it wouldn't be fair maybe. So maybe end of December, but I will continue to use this now throughout the month. And then the second buffer brush, this one worked brilliantly for my contour. It worked very well for the liquid blush. In fact, really, really well. As you saw, I used quite a pigmented one, and it really blended it in so quickly, even when I over applied. So that was excellent. And then I used the smallest to set my powder under my eyes. It did a reasonable job for that. I think it's a little bit big for underneath, but it did work. So it was okay for that. But this one, which is the other tapered brush, this one I used to apply my powder bronzer, and I thought it was really, really good for that. In fact, quite impressed. The density on this works so well for just buffing, not buffing, for pushing my bronzer in, which is the way I prefer to do it. And also I was able to use this one to set all over the face. So whilst this one wasn't so good at setting maybe in this tight area here, it was good above the eye. But this one was good all over the face, although a little bit more time consuming than a puff. So I'm not sure if I'll be using this regularly for setting powder, but I'm definitely going to be trying this one out more regularly for bronzer, which is what I thought it was particularly good for. I didn't love this one quite so much for blush. I do love to use this one from Refa. I mean, I am spoilt with this one. This for me is the perfect sort of shape for a blush. So I don't think I'm going to be moved from that brush, but I will definitely continue to use this one for bronzer and see how I get on, and whether or not I prefer it to that one from Refa or like it maybe equally. And then I used this one for highlighter. This one definitely worked really well for highlighter. It's, again, I like a fan, but I do think this worked pretty much as well as a fan. So again, really good. So I think one of the things that really struck me about this was the multi-purpose, because this brush was the highlight, it was the setting powder, Okay, this one just had the 2 jobs, but everything else, every other brush I've shown you had multiple uses. So, you know, the thickest one, maybe just the 2, the bronzer and the foundation. But this one, probably the most uses really, because I could use this one for all my creams really. It worked for the contour, it worked for the blush, and it also worked very well for my concealer in all areas apart from under the eyes. So the second buffer was really, really good. And the other one that was probably equally as good for the multiple uses was this thicker tapered brush. So I do think that they've got an awful lot of multi-uses. So for travel, I think I could pretty much take this away and all I'd need is my concealer brush, which is what I've done today. So I can do my entire face with this entire set. And okay, it's chunky in handles, but it's not chunky in length. So when it comes to packaging, you might be taking up a sort of a wide section depending on what your packing bag looks like, but you're losing that length. So for a holiday, sort of, when I say holiday, I mean a trip, if you're going away, holiday. And we don't say vacation here in the UK, so when I say holiday, I don't always mean Christmas. And yeah, so if you've got some sort of travel bag that's reasonable size and sectioned into different compartments, these could fit in nicely. And you've got your entire set here, which I've used for creams and powders, every single job done, apart from a concealer brush. And you know, a concealer brush is really not very big at all. I use this one from Refa. So I'd be very, very happy if my entire base set was this for travel. And I'm also very happy with it on a daily. So I think really when I use all of these for different purposes, it would mostly be because I'm in a rush and I just think it's really convenient to do that. But for travel, I really do think they're good. And when I go away on my next short trip, which is coming up quite soon actually, I think I will take these and try them out so I can really let you know how I got on throughout the trip. But I do think I will be using these 3 more regularly. So I will definitely be trying these out for my foundation and bronzer regularly, and this one for my contour regularly and my liquid blush, and this one regularly for my powdered bronzer. So I do have some regulars here, and this brush had that multi-purpose of swiping off some of the excess glitter. Some of it, not all of it. I did have a bit of a disaster with my eye glitter. Anyway, I'm really pleased with these. They've actually exceeded my expectations. I wasn't expecting to get as much use out of it as I have, and I'm really delighted with them. I think they are brilliant, and I think that they are very user-friendly. Also quite good for beginners because they are so easy. You can't really go wrong with them, and they do sort of do the job for you in many ways. So I do think they are really good. I do like the fact that they've got this gorgeous packaging. They are very holiday appropriate. That's not what drew me in to buy them though, it was these buffers, and they have absolutely lived up to expectations. And the softness as well is perfect because you can stamp away as much as you like and they still feel really soft, which I don't find with many of my brushes at all. As you push in, I often feel a bit of a prickle, which I don't like. So really, really like these. Very impressed. And if you can still, well, you can still get them if you're watching this the day I upload it with that 30% discount. So highly recommend using that discount if you're interested in these brushes. But for my first experience of Wayne Goss brushes, very impressed. I'm now going to have to try more, obviously. That's the problem when I try something new and like it. It means I have to try more. Not straight away, but maybe I will be looking more closely at the next launch from Wayne Goss because this one was a hit for me. Anyway, I hope you found that helpful, and if you have, please do like the video and subscribe if you're not already. That is the most useful thing possible for my channel. I really do appreciate it. If you're already subscribed, you're at the end of another one of my videos. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you all, and I hope to see all of you again for my next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.